Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Feedback. I'm your host Caveman PRDR, and today we're going to be going over the Season 21 weapon changes preview for the dev blog to cover from this most recent Wednesday. We've got the most recent This Week at Bungie to cover from this most recent Thursday, and I also want to talk about some details in the most recent episode of the DCP Firing Range podcast, where the hosts were interviewing Mercules, who is a weapons associate developer, and Eric Smith, who is basically a leader of the abilities team. So I wanted to go over some minor details in it, but first we'll go with the weapon changes preview, dev blog, written by Chris Proctor, senior design lead. At the very beginning, they talk about weapon reticles. We've looked at player feedback and how reticles convey less information at higher field of view settings, information that isn't obvious mid-combat and exotic weapons whose perk state can be hard to track, and have rebuilt several weapon reticles to address these. Hipfire reticles and FOV, they're going to make special hipfire reticles and field divisions for the fusion rifles, hand cannons, sidearms, and trace rifles. Charge meters. Fusion charge and sword guard energy are critical aspects of these weapons, which are now required, relying on cues built into the weapon's visual audio. We've updated their hipfire reticles to include the information as well. So fusion rifles have a charge meter under their reticle. Sword reticles now show the current sword guard energy. Kind of similar, I'm assuming kind of similar to how they are doing it for glaives. Experimental ADS reticle on Shire's Wrath now has an ADS reticle that reacts to the weapon's accuracy and auto-aim state and ties into the red reticle, meaning this will change color when an enemy that is within its weapon engagement range is under the reticle. Custom exotic weapon reticles. Charge meter added to exotics whose base weapon type doesn't typically have a charge meter, including Devil's Ruin, Salvation's Grip, Grand Overture. Perk counts showing up, including Quicksilver Storm's grenade count, Memento Mori on Ace of Spades, Lumina rounds on Noble rounds on Lumina, and Traveler's Chosen Gathering Light stacks. Perk progress meter shows perk buildup for the Manticore. Perk active shows when exotic perk is active on Hawkmoon, Agger's Scepter, Teraba, Touch of Malice, Cryosthesia 77, Trinity Ghoul, and charge meter and perk counter for Vex Mythoclast, and then some other ones in the future as well. General inspection screen improvements. So basically they're going to have it to where you can rotate the weapon around whenever you're inspecting a weapon. Looks kind of cool in my opinion. Full auto melee is coming very soon. Weapon archetypes. For bows, Tyranny of Heaven stats were always weirdly low, and we're touching these weapons anyway, so opted to update its stats while we're here. SMGs, aggressive SMGs, are getting a TTK nerf, reducing body shot damage from 15 to 14, increasing precision hit multiplier from 1.45 to 1.5, which makes the crit damage go from 21.8 to 21. Immortal is such a stat monster, no other aggressive SMG can compete, so Immortal is getting a 10 based range reduction. Sniper rifles are getting an increase in PvE damage by 10%. Does not include Izanagi's, but all other exotic rifles, exotic snipers will receive that buff. Scout rifles, Longarm was inadvertently receiving damage bonus versus minors for exotics, so we've addressed that. It still receives the Scout rifle PvE damage buff from the Season 20 mid-season balance update. Exotic weapons, including Eyes of Tomorrow's multi-targeted missile volley and adaptive ordnance exotic trait, suggests that it should be used to kill groups of enemies, but rocket launcher ammo economy doesn't allow for that. But with smart use of the weapon against groups refunded ammo, killing 4 targets with a missile volley will refund 1 ammo for Eyes of Tomorrow. So this could be potentially low-key, this could be game-breaking for activities like GMs. We'll have to wait and see, but get ready for Eyes of Tomorrow. Get ready if you have it, and if you don't have it, get ready to farm it. This could be interesting. I would keep a close eye on this going into Season 21. Graviton Lance's performance feels exotic, but it was heavy to miss out on full damage with the burst because it was so much backloaded, and we felt the tuning of Revision Zero's heavy 2-round burst would be a great fit. So basically, they're giving Graviton Lances the Revision 2 2-round burst feeling, and this is going to put Graviton Lance back into more of a weapon that can be used for PvP now. Jade Rabbit is a strong PvP scout rifle, but it's difficult to keep track of the state of the exotic perk, and refunding a single ammo just wasn't impressive enough for the exotic. Changes to make a state clear and provide more reward for precision. So basically, quickly hitting 3 crit shots now refunds 3 shots instead of 1. Kind of interesting from Jade Rabbit here. Don't really know how to feel about that change just yet. We'll wait and see. Flying around with Manticore is some silly fun, but we want it to be rewarding, mobile, and sustainable. With this change, you should be able to remain airborne for longer and be safer while doing so. Increase Catalyst's DR from Tier 3 to Tier 4. Increase movement speed during hang time. Activating the Catalyst perk through an airborne kill or sustained damage following an airborne kill now partially refills the magazine. That's going to be an interesting change. Noble rounds are being increased from 5 to 6 capacity on Lumina. Heart Shadow damage increase now activates quicker while invisible after 0.25 seconds instead of 1 second. Heart Shadow now weakens upon dealing any damage while the damage increase is active. Keep an eye on this change. Not so much for right now, but for later on. We love Worldline Zero's performance with all the attention has been given swords. We want to spend some time really differentiating it between a certain perk on glowing sword dares. The sprinting heavy attack can now be chained into itself once. Sword Guard energy cost from each sprinting heavy attack reduced from 100% to 50%. Increased damage from an individual sprinting heavy attack by 83%. Sweet Business now fires explosive rounds every 20 shots. Fewer shots while fully spun up. Legend of Acreus increased total ammo from 12 to 16. Increased maximum projectile distance from 9 to 12 meters. Tommy's Matchbook Catalyst updated. While overheated, sustained fire scorches your target. Every 5 shots applies 14 plus 7 with the Ember of Ashes fragment scorch stacks. No time to explain. Its drone wouldn't work against barrier champion shields when it had anti-barrier on during the seasonal artifacts, so they're feeding that. They're fixing that, and they're making it where it works with the Feeding Frenzy perk. So the drone is going to work on anti-barrier now, and it will proc with Feeding Frenzy if it gets the kill. Skyburner's Oath Solar 3.0 pass turned out to be too conservative, so they're increasing scorch stacks on it from 3 to 5 and 5 to 10 with Embers of Ashes. Salvation's Grip is basically not really doing anything. People aren't really using it, so they're reworking it to have 2 fire modes. A charge shot creates a pattern of stasis crystals where the number of crystals is no longer dependent on the charge time. Uncharged shot is a normal melee grenade launcher shot where it does more damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. Adding a new perk that reloads the magazine from reserves when you quickly shatter at least 3 crystals with the uncharged shot. That's going to be an interesting change. Bad Juju's always been hard to control, and that's because its weapon recoil was more like an assault rifle, so now they're going to change it to where the recoil pattern is more similar to other pulse rifles. And this was a change that was actually talked about in the Firing Range podcast, where Outbreak Perfected actually also had a recoil pattern that was similar to ARs. So they are doing a fix to the Bad Juju where it is going to be recoiling more like a pulse rifle now. So we'll see how that goes. Fighting Lion's extra damage against red bars bug is officially fixed. So that's no longer happening now. Thunderlord has an issue fixed that was resulting in hit against the Divinity Bubble counting as 2 crits instead of 1. So technically it's going to be a little bit of a nerf, even though it's actually a fix of a bug. Winterbite's initial version included an exploitable damage bug, which is fixed here. So as you just heard, impact damage has been removed and redistributed to the detonation damage. Self-damage scaling has been tuned to account for the increased damage of the detonation. So we'll see if Winterbite actually is passed for the nerfs this time. Now we're going to talk about some perks, including Fragile Focus, which bonus lasts until shield pop, returns when shield regenerates to 100%. If you don't know what Fragile Focus does, it increases your range. As of right now, it increases range until you get shot. Whenever it gets updated in Season 21, the shield pop, your own shield pop, is when the range bonus will go away. Thresh Demolitionist and Pugilist have always granted increased energy on shotgun, fusion rifle, and sniper kills, but glaives, for some reason, it did not work on them. Reconstruction has been simplified under the hood so we can place the perk on more weapons without exceeding perk budgets. Results in slight change of timing of the perk, where the initial timer of the cooldown timer between reloads has been unified. Base perk is 4 seconds, enhanced is 3.5. So enhanced shaves off a half a second. Shoot to loot's already situationally useful, but we've looked into a way to allow players to interact with orbs of power at a distance, and this was an obvious option. Updated the pickup orbs of power. Currently only works on direct hits. The ability for the orbs to be picked up with the weapon detonations will be added in a future patch. Later on in the future, they talk about, in this part of the article, they pretty much talk about the process they talk about how Zoom works and how they are going to, in the future, remove the increase in damage fall off from Zoom stat. Or Zoom will still affect your stability, your recoil direction, and it will still affect your aim assist fall off. There's that. There's also going to be a big update to swords coming. In the more distant future, we're working on an update to Sparrows that will allow players to use their favorites instead of always on time without touching AOT itself. We're going to go into the TWAB now. And here are a lot of changes that are coming in Season 21 and some links to previous dev articles that we have talked about before. Economy updates, weapon sandbox tuning, abilities, exotic armor tunings, quality of life improvements, crucible updates upcoming. And now they're going to talk about, below that, are the 3 new strand aspects. Hunter is going to get Threaded Spectre. This is where, when you dodge roll, you're going to leave behind a Threadling Spectre, and it explodes and seeks targets. That would be interesting to see. And it was revealed on the Firing Range podcast that it will ping enemy radar. So I think it will be interesting to potentially use for PvP. Titan gets Fudget Storm, similar to how Consecration works, but instead of pressing the melee again to slam back down, you're just going to stay mid-air and basically throw blades out of your Frenzy Blade hands. From what I've seen in this trailer, it looks pretty interesting. It could be a solid option for PvP. The Wanderer, basically Warlocks make a tangle, then they enhance the tangle, throw the tangle, and whenever it hits and kills the enemy, it suspends targets around them. This could be an option for PvP. We'll see. Refundable artifact is almost here. So instead of resetting your entire artifact, now you can just click on and off single artifact perks in the upcoming artifacts. So that'll be a very good quality of life change. And then they also tease what is coming in the seasonal artifact, which is Anti-Barrier AR, Unstoppable Hand Cannon, Overload Scout, Overload Trace Rifle, Unstoppable Glaive. Column 2, Authorized Mods Arc, Authorized Mods Void, Authorized Mods Strand, Authorized Mods Melee, Technicolor Siphon. Column 3, Improved Unraveling, Deeper Origins, Unto the Breach, Electric Armor, Thunderous Retort, Strands. Column 4, there will be Strand Soldier, Overcharged Armory, Protective Breach, Countercharge, and Amped Up. And then in column 5, we have Conductive Cosmic Needle, Shock and Awe, Supernova, Squad Goals, and Lightning Strikes Twice. Updates to enemy elemental shields. They're going to be changing how the elemental shields works on enemies. I've seen a lot of backlash about this on Twitter. I personally don't care. I guess just whatever option makes the game work better or allows less stress on the game, I'm fine with. I will say that with the example they gave, which was for a Vex Minotaur, I will say that we kind of just associate the old design with the old enemy NPC. or the enemy to kill in the game, and the old shield for the Vex enemies in general really fit that enemy type well, with that little grid-like cylindrical pattern that goes around their character. So I don't know how to feel about it just yet, but if it makes the game run better, I'm about it. Stabilizing, and now a note from the engineering team: as part to prepare for Lightfall, we embarked on a technical upgrade to improve our D2 services and hardware. This work included updating our services to new technologies as we prepare for hardware upgrades. In the long run, the investment in the back end of Destiny 2 should lead to a more stable and reliable experience for all players, and faster recovery in instances where service downtime does occur. Launch of Lightfall was a great example of this, with high stability and uptime for both launch day and the Root of Nightmares World's First Race. However, as millions of players have interacted with the services, we have discovered some issues that are working on addressing. A prime example is our background service update system. Typically, several days before one of our Tuesday updates, we will stage the update on our servers. This upgrades our backend services to the new version and means that during the Tuesday patch, we only take a brief amount of downtime before letting players back into the game. However, with our new libraries and code, we've discovered causes where the background update has our services into a bad state, forcing us to bring D2 offline for extended maintenance. So what are we going to do about this? We have a team focused on making corrections to our new services so that we can safely perform background updates again. However, while we do that work, we also want to make sure your D2 experience is as predictable as possible. Therefore, starting in Season of the Deep's launch, we are moving to a scheduled downtime model where we bring D2 offline for a expected 1.5 hours on our update days. This will allow us to do our staging and roll out the same day and should make the experience more stable and reliable. In the meantime, we will continue to monitor performance, upgrade hardware, increase service reliability, and work to give you a great experience each time you play the game. This is the first thing we've heard about from Bungie regarding a lot of the very recent problems we have had with server stability and game issues, whether the game is just having to be forced offline on days where they are doing updates, whether they are releasing new content like the dungeons, etc. This is really the first part of feedback we've heard from them within the last couple of seasons when these issues have really started to ramp up. So it's good to see that this part in the article is here to talk about that. And if it takes a 1.5 hour downtime on the update days, which are Tuesdays, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm generally at work during the day on Tuesday anyway. So, awesome. Guardian games are coming to an end. Current standings for Guardian games includes first place Titans, second place Hunters, third place Warlocks. Top 4 teams, money raised for the Bungie Foundation. First includes developers, or I'm going to call it Developers Cubed because it says developers. Second place is Lost City Guardians. Third place is Metagalactic Boomers. Fourth place is Clean Archive. Top 4 teams at point score. First team included called Popcorn. Second team is Eurysday. Third place team is called Traveler's Chosen. Fourth place team is called Prayer. Introducing Asians at Bungie. And May is Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We're proud to introduce the Asians at Bungie. And this began in 2021 in response to the rising discrimination and violence against AAN HPI communities. So basically, this is Bungie taking a stand with that community. And they also have released an emblem that reflects this design. The design of the pin, Bungie's geographical relationship with the AAN HPI communities across within the Pacific Ocean. The background is a topological outline of the Pacific Ocean. The clouds represent our one sky, and the 7 petaled tea flower is our hope, and the sharing of a cup of tea with all 7 continents, and because Bungie. For the month of May, all proceedings for Stand With Asians pins will go to the International Community Health Services, a nonprofit healthcare organization based in Seattle that welcomes people of all backgrounds in need of care, celebrating 50th anniversary. ICHS was formed in 1973 by Asian American activists to disrupt the systemic racism that denied health to Asian immigrant communities. Today, ICHS remains deeply rooted in Asian Pacific Islander community and continues to serve immigrant and refugee patients in over 70 languages. They have been a leading voice in challenging anti-Asian hate and championing health, equity, and of communities of color. We invite all allies to stand with the AA in HPI communities by purchasing the Stand with Asians pin, which comes with a Harmonic Waves emblem at the Bungie store. An EU Bungie store orders will open May 23rd. Harmonic Waves emblem will also be available without a pin purchase starting May 23rd directly through the Bungie Foundation for a $10 donation. All donations received in May will support ICHS. New emblem for gifting Twitch subs listed below that. Below that is the player support report. Below that is the patch language change. Below that is the update 7.1.0 release schedule. Below that is the last chance Bungie rewards. Below that is previous season pass and vendor rewards, where basically you need to go back into your season pass and pick up stuff. And if you have stuff at vendors like engrams, you need to pick up the engrams. Pick up all your engrams before the new season. Known issues: Guardian Games title champ does not progress Guardian. Rank objectives for earning titles. Movie of the week listed below that. Below that is artist of the week. And that'll be it for this week at Bungie. Now I want to go over some of the notes Now we'll go over some notes that I took while watching the Firing Range podcast. Some quick changes that I'm going to talk about. Mercules had stated, basically the zoom and range changes are going to be coming in Season 22. How zoom increase works right now, which includes a damage fall off increase. This is how far your gun shoots before you receive damage fall off, where the damage drops. Auto aim fall off increases accuracy and decreases recoil. So in future changes, we are going to have the damage fall off separated from zoom. So zoom will still affect your auto aim fall off, it will still affect accuracy, and it will still decrease recoil, or in Bungie's terms, still work with stability. New changes: damage fall off will no longer be affected. New zoom changes still affect increased accuracy, keeping recoil reduction. They're going to work on giving fixed damage fall off scalars to every type of weapon ADS. And then Mercules went on to talk about defining ranges and the new defining ranges for Bungie whenever this update goes live in Season 22. They will define short ranges 0 to 23.5 meters, mid from 23.5 to 40 meters, and then long range, which is greater than 40 meters. Weapon ranges won't change too terribly much based on where they are existing. Like, for the most part, we're already at the pretty good idea of where they really want the ranges, but they're going to start adjusting the outliers and bring the outliers back in. I'm thinking of maybe changes like Last Perdition, and maybe changes to guns like Legal Action 2, where they both can get ridiculous zoom values. Maybe bring those zoom values back in and bring those effective ranges back in and keep them back with other pulse rifles. Some other changes that are coming include, because of this change we just talked about, they're actually going to bump the BXR back up to 20 zoom. Le Monarch is going to receive a damage nerf in PvP. The actual damage from the bow itself is going to be changed to lightweight bow damage. There will be a buff to draw time because of the damage being nerfed on it and being changed to work more so like a lightweight bow. The burn time will change from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So this is going to be a huge change for Lay Monarch in PvP. High impact pulses and no time to explain. Mouse and keyboard ease of use for 340s is simply too high. No time to explain is responsible for 35% of kills of all pulses on mouse and keyboard versus no time to explain's 12% on controller. There's a confirmed range nerf coming to no time to explain to help mitigate the overpoweredness on mouse and keyboard. Pulses, general nerf. They're going to nerf all pulses in the future. They're going to reduce auto aim cone, especially low aim assist pulses. And then regarding Immortal in the future, like we mentioned before, there will be an aggressive frame TTK nerf, which is going to bring it down from roughly 0.67 without target lock to around 0.77 optimal TTK without target lock in the future. Target lock will probably help this TTK shift some, but you pretty much have to main a target lock roll and not miss your shots. So they're also, like I mentioned earlier, they're also taking away 10 of the range stat. That has been this week's episode of the Weekly Feedback. I've been your host, Caveman PRDR. Thank you, and as always, have a good one.